Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order our regular City Council meeting for June 12th, 2018. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Always good to see some new faces in the crowd. Roll call, Sylvia.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
Council President Garland.
Here.
Councilor Kuiper.
Here.
Councilor Young. Here. Councilor Browse.
Here.
Councilor Griffin.
Here.
Councilor Rosner.
Here.
Thank you.
Next is approval of the agenda. I would like to move item E to the end of new business. Any other comments or requests?
Mayor, are we approving the consent agenda or the approval of the agenda?
Approval of the agenda.
Oh.
So move consent agenda item E to
New business.
Business.
Second.
Any other comments? All in favor of approving the agenda as it changed, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Against, opposed, I apologize. Consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from 2 meetings, a resolution certifying the provision of certain municipal services in order to qualify for the city to receive state revenues, resolution creating a new special revenue fund, the transient lodging tax fund, and resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Telfer Pavement Technologies for the 2018 slurry seal program.
I move we approve consent. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the amended consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Citizen comments. Anyone like to address council on anything? One. And if anyone else would like to submit a form to chat, we'd love to have you. Steve Inger, welcome.
Thank you.
I know you, young man. It's been a while. Good to see you again.
So we were here once before, many years ago.
So if you just push the button to make it go green, and just introduce yourself,
Okay.
And away you go.
My name is Steve Inger, and I live at 18448 Southwest Orchard Hill Lane here in Sherwood. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'll be brief. I know your time is valuable. I attended the Planning Commission meeting last week, and I think a few folks here in the room were there. And I offered this testimony, and I think it's pretty short. I'm excited about the new high school, and I believe it'll be very good for our community. The proposed plan shows a stoplight at Haiti Road, which is in very close proximity to Orchard Hill Lane. The proposed plan indicates all traffic to the new school, with the exception of buses, will go onto Elwert Road and then onto Haiti Road. The complexity of the proximity of the Elks Lodge North Driveway, Orchard Hill Lane, and Haiti Road creates a traffic concern that I believe has not been adequately addressed. The Elks Lodge will soon make their North Driveway their primary access point. They have already completed necessary improvements. Discussions with the Sherwood city engineer and the applicants at the time, the high school applicant's traffic engineer, at the Washington County Project Open House last week resulted in a new solution or a new idea that I asked them to consider that evening. Basically, the proposal would be to make Orchard Hill Lane a right-in, right-out intersection, which would involve a curb extending from Haiti Road south to just before the Elks Lodge driveway. And I know you don't have maps in front of you, but essentially the idea of this is to prevent left turns into Orchard Hill Lane and all the traffic going to the high school from turning right onto Elwert Road from Orchard Hill Lane and immediately left onto Haiti Road. So it's across, it's a significant amount of traffic we expect through our neighborhood, which wasn't really designed that way, in my opinion, for high volume of traffic, but also it's crossing the through lane of northbound Elwert traffic across into 2 turn lanes that we expect to back up. And according to the traffic study, they expect it to fill up 2 lanes of left turning traffic into the high school. So I asked them to consider that improvement, and there was significant debate that evening, roughly an hour of their 4-hour meeting. And
way to cause some mischief.
I really didn't mean to do that. And so, but they ultimately didn't make it a condition for the approval of the conditional use permit, which we thought it was a relatively easy add, but there were traffic study issues and concerns from people and not enough research. And my testimony was limited to my 4 minutes, I believe, that evening. And then the applicant had quite a rebuttal, and there was a lot of dialogue in that hour, and I was unable to speak. And I did try to go to every open house and offer my concerns about the traffic. And every time I brought it up to them, it was all about the design of the high school and never the traffic. So the first open house where I felt I could talk about traffic, unless I missed one, and I very well could have, was at the Washington County open house the Thursday prior to that meeting. And that's where Bob Galati, the city engineer, encouraged me to rally my neighbors and come to that meeting. And so we did. And I think that our voices were heard, but nothing was done with the Planning Commission. However, the applicant, the traffic engineer, and the project manager approached me after the meeting and said they would help me work with the county to try to make it happen, which I greatly appreciate. So I'm here to you tonight, just asking for your support to help to have the city engineer participate in those discussions, if possible. I'm not sure what influence you have, but I would just ask for your support in that regard. The applicant's traffic engineer has been trying to set up meetings with the county and with the city engineer and to try to make this happen. So I think that's my ask for the evening.
Thanks, Steve. The fact that they both approached you after the meeting is encouraging. Joe, do you think that we could participate in a conversation to see what the others think?
Yeah, definitely. And I actually, Julia, do you have anything specific? Because Bob works for you in community development. And
Nothing specific, but we would absolutely be happy, and we would want to be part of those conversations, not just be happy to be part of them. We would actually want to be part of those. And the consensus after the meeting was we do want to explore issues. It just was not felt that it was the responsibility of the school district to address this issue, but we want to make sure that we're discussing this and if the need arises, identifying solutions.
Awesome.
and it's a city street that will
Be impacted.
be impacting a county road. So both the county engineers and the city engineer need to be at the table working with the neighbors. I think we heard your concerns, and just continue to talk and see if there's something we can do. So,
Yeah, I think it's a great point to be explored, that the risk of unintended consequences.
Absolutely. And I am familiar with Orchard Hill Road myself. So I absolutely understand that 3 entrance exit issue.
Yeah, because if I was Joe Citizen and if I was stuck behind a traffic jam during construction or whatever, going down to, intending to go to the new, soon-to-be new roundabout by 99, and it was backed up potentially coming out of school, I would turn left.
Yeah, I think everybody would either turn left or in the morning come up and turn right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
great.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for your time today.
Anyone else like to address council on a question or idea?
Steve, are you part of the HOA? Is there an HOA for that neighborhood?
There is.
There is an HOA. I'm not part of the HOA board, but
Okay.
I know them, and we could probably organize through that. We just, because of the time sequence that was so rapid from
Sure.
that Thursday to that meeting and then even to now, I just haven't been able to rally the
Okay.
troops.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The HOA is a Renaissance Crest.
Thanks, Steve. So seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. First is Eagle Scout Award recipients. Do we have any of the 3 Eagle Scouts here? We knew we had one that was not able to be here and the other 2 hadn't responded. So, absolutely. Nathaniel Hicken attained the rank of Eagle Scout, and Joshua Dahl, Harrison Dahl, achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, which is awesome, and Thaddeus Stevens. So maybe we'll still be able to invite them back at a future meeting if they would like to, but that's fantastic. Always love to hear what their Eagle Scout project was and yeah, details about that, and to meet the nice young men. But moving on, we have an opportunity to recognize two outstanding Sherwood High School students that achieved a first place in a state achievement. So is Stephanie Brannan here? Hi, Stephanie. Would you come up to the table? Would you mind? I'd like to, yes, highlight your achievement and embarrass you a little bit.
Turn your mic on. There you go.
So welcome. So well, I don't need to say what you did. What happened? What did you do at the state level?
Well, I performed an oboe solo with piano accompaniment, and then I won first place at state contest.
Fantastic. Congratulations. How long have you been playing the oboe?
I've been playing oboe for about 3 years, but I've been in music since 6th grade, which has been about 6 years. So.
Wow.
So did you graduate last week?
Yeah.
Congratulations. And just because I'm curious, so what is your plans for the fall?
I'm going to Oregon State, and I'm planning on studying music, performance, and mathematics, double major.
Oh, that's excellent. Music is mathematical. It absolutely is. Music is basic math.
Yeah.
So you, if you don't mind, Mayor, I apologize. I'm very curious about this. And I don't apologize. No, I do. Of course I do. Of course
Right
I do.
ahead.
3 years playing the oboe and you went first place. That's phenomenal. That means you have some real talent, I'm sure. So what other instrument did you play before oboe?
I've played saxophone as well. I played that in the marching band and jazz band for my past 4 years.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Awesome. Because I can't deny the other counselors from also asking you questions potentially. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to come around and hand this to you, but we have a certificate of achievement to give you, and it's presented to Stephanie Brannan. On behalf of the City of Sherwood and the Sherwood City Council, we congratulate you on your outstanding achievement of placing first in oboe at the OSAA Instrument Solo Contest. Now, there's someone behind you taking pictures. Who is that? And she is very proud of you. And what is her name? Because we have to embarrass her a little bit too.
Tina Brannon.
Tina. Welcome, Mom.
Okay.
You can take photos.
Thank you.
And it does not end there. Olivia Van Winkle.
Come on.
Welcome, Olivia. So what have you done lately?
Well, I was basically competing at the same competition, but for bassoon. So yeah, out of the whole state, I won first as well.
Congratulations. That is awesome. And how long have you been playing musical instruments and the bassoon?
I've been playing the bassoon for 7 years.
Wow. That is awesome. And what year are you? Did you just graduate, or are you?
Yeah, I graduated.
Awesome. Congratulations as well. I am not the most musical person on the planet. So describe the bassoon.
Well, I'm so glad somebody else got that.
Yeah, it's not a super common instrument. It's pretty tall. It goes up to about here on me if I were to set it on the floor and stand up. It's really long and skinny. and it's pretty dark in color and has a lot of like
There it is.
metal pieces on it.
We have a photo of it now, Olivia.
So I confuse my woodwind instruments. It's either, perhaps, and you guys can both answer this, bassoon and oboe, both reed instruments, am I correct? Do you guys make your own reeds for your instruments? Oh, okay, because I've heard of that as being a craft among itself, of actually being very particular for the instrumentalists. So I didn't know if it was both of them or one of the others.
I am learning so much today. This is awesome.
So I do have a question. I understand from some of your friends that are close to me that you actually study under someone fairly famous in the area. Is that right? In Portland area?
Yeah, I study with Evan Coleman, and he's in the Oregon Symphony.
Excellent. Great.
So you're a freshly minted graduate and state champion. So what is in your future?
Oh, so I'm going to the University of Kansas to study bassoon performance and biology.
Oh, fabulous.
Congratulations. Other questions? Awesome. So I am also going to present you with a certificate of achievement. It is presented to Olivia Van Winkle. On behalf of the city of Sherwood and the Sherwood City Council, we congratulate you on your outstanding achievement, placing first in bassoon, the 2017-18 OSAA Instrumental Solo Contest. And you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but if it's okay.
Thank you.
New business. Item A, Resolution 2018-049, authorizing the annual indexing and rate adjustment of city system development charges. Julia.
Thank you. And I did give the mayor a heads up. Bob Galati is on the agenda, but he is at the Planning Commission meeting this evening over at the Police Community Room. So I told him I would fill in. Basically, the resolution before you authorizes an annual indexing and rate adjustment for city system development charges. We have a variety of system development charges that are both reimbursement and improvement for transportation, sanitary sewer, water, parks, and right now they're just based on the methodology, but they don't increase or decrease based on inflation. So we're proposing to fix that. The ORS allows us to index. Our recommendation is to index the improvement and reimbursement SDCs using the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Indexing for Seattle. This reflects regional price and cost differences that impact construction costs and we're proposing that be a 3-year running average. For the administrative system development charges, because that's more staff-based, staff-driven, we're proposing or recommending that we use the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index West Region. This is the same index used for our cost of living increases at the staff level and reflects regional differences in employment costs, so it sort of allows us to get a little bit more accurate than if we looked at the national level. And with the resolution, you'd authorize that to occur on an annual basis, and we won't have to come back every year. It will just be reflected in the fee schedule updates that you adopt. With that, we recommend approval of the resolution.
Questions for Julia?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion or motion from council?
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 2018-049, authorizing the annual indexing and rate adjustment of the city system development charges.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Any? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 2018-049, authorizing the annual indexing and rate adjustments of the system development charges, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Next is Resolution 2018-015, adopting the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2018-19. Katie.
Okay, so my name is on this one, but it's really a collaborative effort, and Julia does the bulk of the work. So it's my name on it because a piece of it goes into the budget, and this is why we're adopting it tonight. We do review it each year. The capital improvement plan is used for funding for a lot of sources. So there are a lot of revenue sources that cannot be used if the project is not already in the CIP. And so it's a really important document for us to use. It's also important to recognize, and this has been added to the resolution that was not there in the past, that there are more projects identified than there's necessarily funding for. So another thing that you are recognizing through this resolution is that you have reviewed the projects that are in here, and that you recognize the prioritization of the projects, and that you are okay with that prioritization. So as we enter the discussion period, I want to make sure that that's clear, and if you have any questions on the priority of these projects, that we do clarify that before you move into approving the resolution. Josh wanted to make that clear, and he was not available to be here today. So,
and just if I may add on to that, first of all, I do a lot of the work, but Bob and Craig and Katie and Rich and everybody else does a lot as well. But on the piece that Katie just mentioned, the 1-year CIP, there are funds for. It's the 5-year CIP projects that we're really getting at, and it has to do with immunity from liability, just acknowledging that you may not actually do everything that you have identified in your plans, and you have to make priorities when you're budgeting. You can't do it all, even if there are safety issues. There may be lots of safety issues that you can only afford to address as funds are available.
But even that isn't necessarily completely accurate, because the skate park is on the list for 600 grand, and we have zero plans to spend 600 grand. So if we get the grant, we will be moving forward. So is that implicit in the
This gives us the
form?
budget authority, and
so what we've included in the budget is the amount of the city's match for that project. So included in the budget that we'll be going over as the next item is the amount of the city's match. And if you were to look in the CIP itself at that document, there's also a split into different phases. If we were to not get the grant, there are different phases that could be done. And that funding can then pay for phase 1 so that the project can still move along. So
we are not obligating ourselves for the
Not
project
obligating
in any
ourselves.
form whatsoever if we don't get the state grants necessarily.
that is correct.
Okay, I do have a follow-up question, similar. A project that is identified in the 5-year plan for which there is no funding, at what point does that project get determined to be moving up in priority, or does it ever get moved up in priority? Can priorities change in a project that is at the 5-year level, then get dropped?
all of the above.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
it moves up as funding becomes available, as priorities shift, as maybe development occurs and things are different now, or they may stay at the 5-year and other things may get on the list in front of it.
Okay.
And that's why we have this discussion, and it's adopted on an annual basis.
Okay. All right.
More questions?
I had a specific question on one of the actual items that's in the CIP. Are we asking those questions now, or?
Because we haven't had, I asked Council President Garland if there was, before I joined, if there was work sessions on the non-utility driven items.
There have not been, and I actually sent an email to Councilor Griffin not that long ago. We have an informal review process. The majority of the projects that are in the CIP come directly from the master plans. So there are public processes and public discussions about what goes into this into the CIP document. But we certainly can have a more formal process. We sort of talked about like October-ish, November-ish, before we start the budget process, to have more formal conversations about what is in it, what's the 1-year what are we thinking might need to come up, you know, on the list or back down off the list. So we have not, but we could. And I think if there's any specific question about something in the master or the CIP, I can try to address it.
I think my question is actually a fairly easy one, and it's the first one that's on the list. It's T29 about the Sunset Boulevard, Highway 99 improvements. Yeah. And I know it's been talked about, and I just want to make sure that I understand fully what that plan is, and I think it's a critical one for the citizens to understand that work, especially with all the talk about the high school going in fairly much across the street. So it says here on the description, I'll read it out. Here is this project includes adding westbound and eastbound left turn lanes on Sunset Boulevard and changing the signal phasing from permissive to protected permissive phasing. Maybe I'll let you explain what that is, because I understand we're adding some turn lanes, and as I understand it, that's from Sunset, adding a turn lane on Sunset onto 99. Do I have that right? Or is it the other direction?
What page are you on?
Sorry, it's page 91 has the
So that's part of my problem when I was reviewing it. I looked for these T projects and I didn't find any of them.
91 of the packet?
91 in the lower right-hand corner, I think it is.
91 of the CIP.
Oh, that's because it's called a D31 in the packet.
That's not going to find it either.
Oh, what?
There's a lot of this kind of in this.
So page 91 of our packet, but project number D31, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Project number D31, the page number at the bottom of the page is T29. We'll get this better in the future. But yes, my understanding is that it is additional turn lanes from Sunset onto 99W, as well as receiving lanes from 99W onto.
So left turns to Newburgh will have a dedicated left turn lane with, I assume that's what permissive to protected permissive phasing of the light means, is that there'll be a left turn signal?
That is, I believe so, but that sort of still has to be all figured out. But the idea is that we have funding to design that. So
Understood.
I don't want to promise exactly what it's going to look like.
And then it talks about that it would also consider implementing improvements with the pedestrian project P3. And I believe I looked that up a while ago. I think that just means like some crosswalks at that intersection as well, crossing 99W. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear as to what those plans were, since it does appear right at the top of our list, and it is something that has been discussed a lot publicly as far as that intersection. So, thank you.
So I had questions on that same one. If I'm understanding this properly, that the money that's showing budgeted for this year and next year is just for design?
Design and beginning of construction. We are committing as much as we can commit to have that being done at the same time as the other side of it.
Okay, that's what people are asking, you know, on social media. Like, and I keep thinking that it would make sense to have it done in conjunction with.
It really has to.
Okay.
Because we only have lanes going into.
Exactly.
And I know it's a settled argument, but what was so that there is no obligation on the school district to do this, but why was it not an obligation on the school district, so people know?
It wasn't specifically warranted. It's part of what we already are planning in doing in our budget. So it was part of what was assumed. The county project was going over there to a certain extent, but we're carrying it on further. So it's more that it wasn't part of them contributing that with the county project. And the traffic study didn't identify that as their burden alone. It's really well beyond what their project was going to be doing.
And that was planned in the past. This is not a new.
I know, but I want to make sure that people in the audience understand.
Yeah, and I guess it gets to the proportionality issue. They're not responsible for solving that intersection alone. They will be contributing a lot of improvements. You know, $12.4 million worth of improvements to the transportation system. That is they're responsible for, but they're not responsible for fixing every problem that is out there today.
And if the high school were never being built over there, we'd be doing some of these improvements.
Yep, that's exactly right. So
It's the but-for argument, right? But-for, you know. Okay, all right.
Other questions?
I do have a question on the same project. As we look at that project in coordination with the traffic circle that's going in, providing safe routes for our kids, is the crosswalk design going to be integrated into those other projects? And I know there was a work session where we talked about creating a path through that thumb of land to make sure our kids have the safest route. to get to school.
Certainly that will continue to be an ongoing conversation, and after the work session, we did convey, we discussed making sure that we are conveying that to the county, ensuring that it's happening with the county, and we will make sure that whatever we do is the safest that we can do with the funds that we have.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I think just one thing to note, sorry, Russell, I just jumped on you there. Anybody who happens to be at home listening, this CIP document that we're talking about is available on this Sherwood website. I look for it today. You can type in just CIP in the search box or capital improvement plan and find this. It's a fairly lengthy document. We're obviously not going to cover all of it tonight, but if anybody's interested, it really does do a good job of showing what's in the works for immediate future plans for the city. So a lot of the questions we get, why don't you do this? When are you going to do this? Some of that is included in this document. So I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Excellent point.
I do have one question.
Yep.
It's not a specific project, but if you notice, I noticed that on each of these it has ranking criteria met. So council goals, master plan, so on and so forth. So as a council, we have not formalized our council goals.
Right.
We hope to be doing that on Monday. How does the CIP plan, once those new goals are fortified, what happens to this plan if there's any changes?
It probably would occur in the next update. And this is, I believe that when we created this, it was really reflecting kind of what's in the master plans and things like that. So, but we can make changes to make this a better document. We just want to make sure that we've captured all the projects that are in our plan so that, exactly as Councilor Garland said, people just because it's not being done next year doesn't mean that we don't know that it needs to be done. So we can make updates to really anything in here. Obviously, it takes time and effort, but if there's something that we need to do to make this a better reflection and more articulating what we as a community are doing, we can do that.
So if there's goals adopted by unofficially in our work session next week that should be on the CIP, we can update the CIP. How soon?
We actually we could make updates to the CIP kind of at any time, and we just need to go through the process of amending the CIP and including projects in there. I think the earliest we were discussing that could be done, just given schedules, would be the August 17th,
Second meeting in August.
August 21st meeting.
Yeah, because the value of having practical projects, dream projects from now and in the long term in the future is to be able to have it on the CIP, to be able to pursue outside money if there are opportunities. And so, yeah, and so there's opportunities we'll talk about next week. So
I wanted to add a comment about the process. So in the document, it says on the bottom of page 47, the CIP development and review team consists of city staff and department directors who are responsible for development of the CIP project list, reviewing proposed CIP project scopes and schedules, and that's get passed off to the city manager, and then the city manager brings that to the council. So where do those items come from? As Julia said, master plan, council goals, health and safety, regulatory, outside. This is on the top of the next page. So that fascinated me. I was all over that today, so I was emailing back and forth with Julia and Katie. But back on page 47, it says, throughout the year, staff and council receive comments, suggestions, and concerns from the public related to needed improvements which are potentially incorporated into the CIP. I would like, as a council, I'd like to track that process. I would like to know when a citizen makes a suggestion, whatever it is, that maybe that gets tracked somewhere so that we can see what that was. It doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And so, not that it is, I'm not saying it is, but that, in maybe a slightly more formal process, we're kind of just taking a peek at that once in a while. Because I made a grand effort to get through every one of these pictures. Any one of these pages that Bob created are awesome, by the way. I didn't get all the way. I went through all the major ones, but I didn't get to year 4 and year 5. And I would like to be more informed as to the process that happens internally. This review team, maybe if they meet, I'd kind of like to know when did they meet and what did they discuss. Maybe just an update, maybe that you bring to us or whomever.
So, and as I mentioned in the email, it's not
Right.
that formal right
Right.
now. It would be great if we could get it to be a little bit more formal. And one of the reasons why I said we're not quite there yet is that we need to figure out a process for true. I mean, the types of things that get addressed right now by the public are we get 50 emails about the same thing, and Craig is able to incorporate it into his operational projects and things like that. So kind of just dealing with things as they come up that we know are issues and we know our concerns, the no parking signs, those types of things that we just sort of deal with. But other than that, we need a process to deal with and prioritize other things like the neighborhood traffic calming and things like that, that if we have a formal process that, we're really getting input, we need to be able to figure out how we're going to prioritize amongst the council and within the budget and identifying funding sources for that. But I think that's a goal that we want to get to.
Right, I like that.
Yeah,
I would just like to be more informed.
Yeah, I like that as well, too, Counselor, because it's a great way to check whether or not our master planning on transportation and other things are actually capturing what the people out there are seeing every day that needs to be dealt with in some manner. So
I would say,
like that idea.
Putting on my project management hat, as I tend to do from up here, generally project management methodologies, the way I'm almost kind of hearing this is, on a project, if you have change requests, it changes to requirements on a project, you have a change control board, somebody comes in and requests a potential change to your requirements on your project, in this case, your capital improvement plan, they're logged, you do a review within the change control board, you do a level of estimate kind of review of it, it's approved, it's denied, it's, temporary put on hold, something like that. That's kind of what I'm almost hearing as far, I don't want to create an entire process for you guys, but that's what I'm hearing, kind of Councilor Riffin saying is at least a formalized tracking of the requests that come in. And I don't know how much level of effort that is for you guys to create that project and not knowing what this review team looks like.
So just to give you a little background, we, this year, we started the process of trying to establish a process. And this year we worked on the financial side of the process. And we worked on getting a methodology so that everything tied together, so that all the numbers from the CIP tied to the annual numbers from the budget, so that the authorizing forms tied to the budget forms. And we got that not perfect, but we got it smoothed out and got everything done in time to do it in the right order in the budget. This had not been done before. So now, once the audit is done, so the audit will be done in September. So the plan is that October through December, we're going to establish a CIP team that will address a variety of different things as far as the capital projects go. And this goes from the selection of the projects all the way through to the forms and the routing, and we'll look at efficiencies and who touches what when and how we're doing everything. So there's likely to be some subgroups in there, and I could see a subgroup being those communications and how they're formed. So the plan is for October through December to have that done. So that's on my timeline, and I've spoken with Bob and spoken with Julia, as soon as the audit's done, that we're going to set up this group. And we did meet this last year twice, I think, to go over some of the basics and what information do we need and what does everybody need in order to have everything. But then, things got a little chaotic this year, let's just say. So we had to put that on the back burner, but it is set to revive in October.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much.
And
Great.
I think there's an opportunity in that time frame to loop back to council earlier in the process, to engage with you folks earlier in the budget process. So you're not necessarily seeing everything at the end of the line here, faced with a June 30th deadline, and getting your input and your priorities earlier in the game. That's the goal too.
Well, we have a
Another
good
thing
start
that I'm
right
hearing.
now with the CIP that is fairly
Yeah.
thorough here, so it's.
And this has come a long way in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, each year this gets better and better, but it's been mostly internal and not working directly with the council. And I would say the input we get from citizens, the biggest area I hear besides speeding complaints or some parking issues, is about traffic calming.
Right.
That's the big thing that we are hearing are traffic calming type issues within neighborhoods.
Yeah. So for folks at home looking at this, and if you would look on online, some of it is truly riveting. I mean boring, but there is absolutely some interesting stuff. The boring stuff is, is the ongoing schedule of proper operation and maintenance of our water system, of our sanitary system, of our stormwater system. What?
I apologize to Craig. He says it's boring.
It's important. It is critical.
That's right.
It is very programmatic, but to the audience,
Somebody might find it riveting.
there are types.
I find it riveting.
And sometimes I am in that category, but the stuff that people are more interested in knowing, and electeds are often more interested in knowing, and is transportation, is general road maintenance, rehab work, but significant transportation projects, traffic calming projects, capital projects that that pop up, and wow, that's something new that people are interested in. They say, well, why'd you do that blankety blank thing? I want to do blankety blank blah, and that's the stuff that electeds love to dig their teeth in, and the community loves to dig their teeth in, and we'll just need to get
But I
that.
wanted to point out that what Julia said earlier, that a lot of these projects have already been identified in master plans. And so there has been an extensive public input process. So a lot of the citizens might say, oh, I was at that meeting. I know why that's on that list. So it's not like anything was shocking or surprising to me. I just was fascinated by the process.
Yes.
And I'm
That water line replacement.
I'm fascinated
Master plan study.
by that important process. But I would love to see what it looks like in like 6 months. Awesome. Yeah.
One last question.
Yes.
And just because something's on the CIP doesn't mean it's been thoroughly approved by council to go forward with it. For instance,
No,
the second dog
there's no-
park. We're going to have a conversation about that before we do it.
Yes, because currently in the CIP, it's on the other side of the highway.
Right,
somewhere.
Right.
So that's just.
And
This
again,
is
just
kind of
because
the
it's in the
dream
CIP
wish
doesn't mean it's
list.
going to
Right.
get, funded.
Yeah, but if we
especially
get
the
the
further out
state,
you
if we
go.
get a state grant for another dog park, then by golly, we'll build a dog park.
That's right.
And we
Priority
have not
increase it.
applied for a dog park state grant, just so you know. I'm not aware of there being a dog park state grant.
Let's just approve
But
the
if you
one
know
we
of a dog park state grant, let us know. And
If the state
We'll add it.
is
We'll add it to
watching.
the CIP. Priority 1.
Thank you, staff.
then my last comment is I did have, and it was called on that there wasn't a sheet necessarily for every project, but we should update the reference numbers because I kept finding errors. So.
You mean the MP project numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would look for a D29 and it was D26, for instance, or something like that, or just one digit off, and then the T's. I was looking for the same project you were talking about, and it's not listed as MP project T. It's a D. And
So just to clarify, there might be confusion. The letters, the references in the table of contents, that's to the page number, not the master plan project number. So for example,
We don't have those page numbers either.
Well, we've got page numbers listed in our packet.
so we will make sure that in the future, what council sees is an exact replica of what I have in front of me.
Because we're easily confused.
Yeah.
So, we will.
I was having some head scratches.
It's very perfect in the future.
So, the council, we have asked staff all the questions I think we could ask. Discussion amongst ourselves, or a motion amongst ourselves.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2018-050, the capital improvement plan CIP for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution 2018-050, adopting the capital improvement plan CIP for FY 2018-19, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Next on new business is item that was on the consent agenda. First, Joe, do you want us to act on this, consider this today? You want to continue it? You want to do something else with it?
Which one, Mr.
Could I interject?
9A?
In order for
Okay,
this to be
Kate.
processed within the fiscal year that it's relating to, I assume that we're talking about the PTO cash out?
Resolution 2018-047, yep.
Yes, it would need to be processed it would need to be processed today in order for us to handle it within the fiscal year that it applies to. The policy has restrictions as to the time limits, and to be within those time limits, it needs to be handled this evening.
It would need to be handled this month.
Correct, and in order to get it in the proper payroll, it would need to be, the last payroll is
all right.
going to be processed.
So, you want us to act on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
let's do it.
Sorry, I
Katie,
was-
your resolution, what's the resolution?
So this resolution is to approve the city manager's request for PTO cash out. In 2016, the city council established a paid time off policy for senior leadership, and then it was added to the city managers and the city attorney's contracts that they would be able to use the policy with the same restrictions as the rest of senior leadership upon written approval from city council. And in the past, the mayor has signed off on these. However, as we've discussed in recent work sessions, this is really giving a lot of feedback. Yours was bad too. In recent discussions, that it takes a majority of city council in order to approve any motion, at least the way the policies are right now. And so
Right.
for this reason, we've brought it forward as a resolution in order to get city council authority to act on this that is in Joe's contract. We have reviewed the request, reviewed all of the requirements according to the policy as far as how many hours of vacation have been taken since July 1st of this fiscal year, how many PTO hours remain in his PTO bank, and he meets all of the requirements in accordance with the policy. And so the request is just to approve the cash out in accordance with the PTO cash out policy.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Knowing that, add a little nugget, that the city council never approved, that we didn't follow process on the other two, is a point we need to cover another day. Because they were, it was awarded improperly. But on this request, I pulled it from the consent agenda just because philosophically I don't agree with the policy. I have a number of concerns, and after we're done with this, and I'm not at all, I kind of think I might be on the minority end on this action, but I want to be clear that I don't support it. With council employees, they loves the heat off my sunburn. I believe the city manager and the city attorney, because they're both council employees, should work as they need to, take time off as they need to. At the end of the year, we evaluate the performance and we give a raise, don't give a raise, we give a bonus, we don't give a bonus. And it's kind of as simple as that. I believe the policy, as part of what I want us to talk about, how looking at it in the future provides an incentive for people not to take time off and to be able to take extra pay. And I don't want to be our council micromanaging, the day-to-day stuff of our two employees. So that's in a nutshell. I have more comments, but when we have a work session or establish a subcommittee or something to review the PTO program and this resolution, I think it's important for that group or us to review the PTO program, all paid time off options that are there, because we learned earlier that we are out of whack by compared to our comparables with our PTO plan. In the past, that was done when I was on council before, because we knew we were a little below the average. So we were giving an additional incentive for people to want to stay and work here, to spend time with families, to take more time off, and without increasing the expense to the general fund for labor. And there was not a cash out option for folks, certainly in at least leadership. I'm not sure about further in other spaces. We just went through a process where all staff has now been elevated to fair wages, and we should review the PTO plan at a future date. But with this, I will always look at the total compensation that we award the city manager, regardless of if we grant PTO cash out or not, when we do annual reviews. So that's my 10 cents.
So I understand wanting to look at the PTO policy moving forward and that there's concerns. I just think this request currently falls under the current policy, and his contract refers to that policy, and he's met all the guidelines, that I think this one should be approved. And my understanding is when this policy was set in place, there was some period of time where there were some, at that time, a council employee or senior leader who wasn't able to take their PTO because of situations that were happening in the city, and some people lost some of their PTO. So I think this was put in place partially for that reason, is my understanding. But for tonight, I think we can have that conversation in the future and have a work session.
I would like to add that too. I think you bring up some good points, Mayor, then they do need to probably be reviewed for the future. But I think for this instance, we do have something that, the contract equates with a policy. We need to be looking at this now because we have a fiscal end year coming up. So I think for this particular instance, I think it's follows the path that has already been set by policy. So.
I'd just like to add, I tend to agree with a lot of the points you're making. In my career, many of the positions I held, you didn't get vacation, but you could take the time, as long as you get your job done, you can take the time off you needed, which in certain positions works really well. I'm not suggesting we adopt that policy, but maybe something in the spirit of it. I also think it's important that people take their vacation. I think it's a kind of a mental health thing, making sure that we're all enjoying our jobs and not acquiring baggage along the ways. But I thought about this a lot, and I think we do need to review this, but I think we need to change the policy before we take a different path. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions or comments or a motion?
I motion that we move to approve Resolution 2018-047, authorizing the city manager to cash out paid time off.
Second.
Moved and second discussion on the motion. All in favor of approving Resolution 2018-047, authorizing the city manager to cash out paid time off, PTO, say aye.
Aye.
All against, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you, council. Tagging on to new business, I would just like to ask council, in consideration of this, reviewing this resolution policy and the PTO plan, we can take a couple paths to do that. And I want to see if we might not have decide on a path now, or to think about it. We can have work sessions as a group. We can form a subcommittee to review it. There is and I don't know the exact structure, but there is a benefits review committee in the city I've already talked with Josh on the prospect of adding a couple counselors to that committee, with the idea initially of when that group reviews the next healthcare policy for what we sign up with this next year, but this could be added to that, or any other idea, or we can punt and not do anything.
We have a benefit committee today, and I think it would be wise to just maybe add 2 counselors to that committee and have them work on this together, because I think when we look at the overall compensation and benefits and PTO, we shouldn't be looking at that in 2 separate silos.
Yep.
We need to look at it together.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the challenge of, the last few months of we looked at folks' compensation, but we didn't address these other things.
So I have a clarified question.
Yep.
The PTO in question, though, is strictly on our 2 employees, correct?
It would encompass all exempt employees, and it
But that's not our.
It is our
purview.
charge. Absolutely. So we have union agreements with our 2 unions, and that it would not be applicable to our union contracts, but it could be applicable to those that are not represented.
Okay. I would be willing to sit on that committee.
I would as well.
Other comments or thoughts?
I would sit on that, if we're not going to do it as a work session.
What's your collective?
I think a committee is better because a work session is only just one point in time, and I don't like the idea of siloing sort of different benefits. I'd rather have it collectively move and go through it thoroughly among people who, have some experience with that.
Would that committee report back to the council as a whole, or would that?
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe they could do that in a work session.
Yeah. Other thoughts, opinions?
And I would suggest that the committee not just report at the end of the process. We have regular reporting
Right line
points, so
discussions.
council can give input along the way.
I guess if there's 2 counselors on it, they can give us updates.
Yeah. Or we could do 3. There's no, I mean, we can do, certainly, that would be the preference too.
Yeah,
so
I
what are you
would like to
thinking?
jump in. I want to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the mayor, what's our motivating, I think I know the answer, what's our motivating factor in getting this involved? And what might be, I think Councilor Prowse was referring to, is this within our purview, maybe for our 2 employees? And you said absolutely it does pertain to the exempt employees.
So
I'm
in the
not saying I
process-
disagree with that. I would like for the public to understand what's your motivation on digging into this.
So it's about, we wanted to be fair and transparent and equitable and figure out where we're at and make sure that on the healthcare side that we still have an outstanding policy for all of our employees, to see if there are opportunities to still have a great coverage, equal or better, but at a better price. On PTO, do we have the right policy in place compared to our competitors or comparables in the
I
region?
don't even know what they have, so.
And to understand that policy, to understand, I have no idea how the state sick leave policy fits into the mix. It is just out of my scope, out of my depth, and that's why I'm not going to sit on this committee. But that might even be just so you folks understand that. And I don't know if by law you can have a different PTO policy for council employees versus non-union represented employees. So that will be asked and answered in the process.
Thank you.
I would add too that looking at the PTO side, the way that policy is written today, I don't think it provides enough guidelines to what qualifies, what doesn't. Just stating I need it, other than is there a reason that the employee's not been able to take time off or take advantage of their PTO and those types of things. I think it could be cleaned up a little bit.
Could I clarify something? I just want to make sure that you understand that Joe has taken over 144 hours of leave since July 1st, and that he still has 130 hours left.
Great.
He's taken a lot of time. So it's not that he's trading something, that comment about not having time to take leave. He's taken a lot of leave.
My comment wasn't specific to Joe.
Oh, okay.
More in the general
But the policy
sense.
says they have to have taken leave.
We read it.
Okay.
We read it. Thank you.
Just to understand, let's say, every employee in the city cashed out the 80 hours that they're allowed, or 40, I think some are allowed.
So unions, and here's another point for consideration. The union contracts, I believe, that were approved, at least the AFSCME one, which I was in discussion with, they are able to do 40. Mm-hmm. Admin or non-represented are able to do 80.
Okay, so let's say every employee did that every year, took their 40 and took their 80, cashed it out. That's a huge impact on our budget.
Yep.
Luckily,
and not everybody does it.
Everybody does that.
But I could make a list of 15 different questions like that for the group to look at.
Well, we can't. Yeah, and we can't capture everything, right? We won't be able to capture everything, but we can do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people.
There's no changes needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It would be we would be failing in our fiduciary responsibility if we did not give it attention, in my opinion.
And I'll just add one thing, we mentioned the benefit side too. My goal with all this, and I think most would share this, is we look at our benefit providers. The goal is not to reduce benefits and save money.
No.
The goal, we believe there are alternate providers and other pools that we can get our coverage from where we can save a significant amount of money. And still provide the same coverage or better to our employees.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback. So based on that, I'll reach out to Josh, he's not here, about adding 2 or 3 counselors to the benefits committee, in which then this would be added to their scope of review and discussion, and report regularly back to council in work session just to say what's going on. That sound good? Awesome. Moving on, public hearings. We've got 3 items for public hearings this evening. Sylvia, do you have something to read in the record before we... And I am really attracting this fly. Good night, everybody.
Wave over the back. Only a mother can do that.
Hey, there were 2 folks that gave the same wave. We had a couple folks that left. They didn't want to stay for the public hearing, which is fine.
So, Mayor and Council, this hearing, the statement is for 3 items listed under public hearing this evening. The Sherwood City Council will hold a public hearing to hear testimony on Resolution 2018-051, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. Resolution 2018-052, adopting the fiscal year 2018-19 budget of the City of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such actions necessary to carry out the adopted budget. And Ordinance 2018-005, amending Title IV of the Municipal Code relating to the city telecommunications utility and repealing sections 4.04.040 through 4.04.090 relating to the Telecommunications Advisory Board. For this ordinance, this is the first reading on that ordinance. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff will present a staff report. Questions by the City Council for staff. Receiving any public testimony. We will then open the public hearing to receive testimony, and time will be limited to 4 minutes per person. We will then close the public hearing and no additional comments will be received. Final comments by staff. Questions of staff, if any, by the council. Discussion by the council. For the first hearing before the City Council on the 2 resolutions, generally the council will hold 2 hearings prior to a decision. The 2 hearings apply to the ordinance only. So this evening, for the two resolutions, this is the one and potentially only hearing unless the council chooses to continue those items. However, in accordance with the city charter, council reserves the right to make a decision at the close of this hearing by unanimous vote of all sitting council members. If you wish to speak, please fill out the testimony form and submit it to the city recorder. The mayor will recognize those persons wishing to speak, and any questions should be addressed through the mayor. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, as this hearing will be recorded, and limit your testimony to 4 minutes.
Thank you, Sylvia. So the first resolution that we will ask hear from staff is Resolution 2018-051, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. Katie.
So in order to receive state shared revenues, we're required to do two things. One is to hold a public hearing, and the other is to have levied taxes in the previous year. So this public hearing is to make sure that we qualify to receive state shared revenues. I do have a very brief presentation due to the very small size of the audience. We're going to go through it very quickly since you have already seen it as part of the budget committee. I do want to show it in case there are people watching on TV, and so that it is part of the record, so that they can see what we have as state shared revenues.
Great.
So first of all, we get estimates each year from the League of Oregon Cities. The per capita state revenues are money that we get based on our population. So the population we're working with is 19,350. They use the population in December of the previous year. So our estimates for liquor revenues are $18.37 per person. You can see that that's up from $17.85 per person from last year. Cigarette tax has gone down a little bit, $1.21 per person. That reflects less smokers actually in the population, and that's why those taxes are tending to go down.
I know exactly.
Or they're smoking less, just less cigarettes.
Bargain brand. Bargain brand.
Yes.
911 taxes are going up, although not quite enough to keep pace with the needs of 911, but that's another conversation that will be coming up with legislation. Highway trust fund revenues are going up significantly, and we will see those in street operations. So those are put in the street fund. Marijuana tax revenues are definitely up, but those do not apply to the city of Sherwood since they're banned in the city of Sherwood. So in the general fund, what does this represent? This represents 14% of the total revenues in the general fund, as opposed to property taxes, for example, which are 40%. But it's still a good piece of the pie, and so it is very important that we meet those requirements. And this public hearing is so that the public has a chance to give input on those revenues and how they are spent. The intergovernmentals in revenues in the general fund are broken up, and of those, the liquor tax makes up 17%. The lump together state revenue sharing is 13%, and cigarette taxes is just 1%. Street operations, you can see that intergovernmental revenues make up 69% of those street revenues. So a huge amount for the street fund comes through that those gas taxes, basically. Gas taxes and the when you register your car, those additional fees that we now have. So how are we using those? In the general fund, those are lumped into the general fund along with the property taxes. And those, we had a resolution that was approved in consent tonight that says that we do perform certain activities that are required in order to do this with the funds, which is public safety. We have the community development. So those types of activities, these funds can be used for. In fact, our public safety would qualify to take all of the funds. So that's why we just put them directly in the general fund, and they go to fund those activities. In street operations, we separate those out. They're required to be used for street maintenance, those types of things, and so it's in its own fund and used only for that. So that is all I have for presentation. Any questions from council?
After public comment.
After public comment. Any public comment?
Now's the time to address council on this proposed resolution. Going once? Going twice?
Oh, it's gone.
The public hearing for Resolution 2018-051 is closed. Questions for staff?
I have a related question. The recent settlement with Comcast for the gigabit property tax exemptions, have we heard any word on any share that Sherwood might get of that settlement?
No, it will be divided based on how the property taxes are split out, but we haven't been told what that means for us as a city yet. So.
And those, it gets divvied up to the properties in cities only, right?
So there are some counties and cities, and so it's.
Okay.
But in Washington County, and Washington County is one of the counties, and so it's going to be divided up.
Great.
Between the municipalities.
Other questions?
And it could be significant. But I'm hearing August at the earliest before we hear.
So one of the suggestions from Governor Kate Brown would be to pay down our PERS liability. And when we learn about that, I would like to learn more information about what that looks like and means.
Yes, so we've already started looking into it and how to do a site account and what the benefits would be and that type of thing, and whether we could tap into the matching that the state is providing for site accounts. So
I can see a future work session on that once we know how much we're talking about. So,
great. Other questions?
And I just, for the public that's watching, because a lot of times we actually have public comment during this time, and usually the question is, how come the citizens can't help determine where these funds go? Is it pretty standard that cities put it in the general fund, or?
It is very standard. It's part of the shared revenues. The public does have input, and is part of the budget committee. We recommend that the public come to the hearing that's part of the budget committee, because at that time there is time to address how it's used. Whereas the public hearing that's done after the budget is approved is generally, it's sort of a last chance that the public has. So if they want to give input into it, they really need to come during the budget committees. We have 2 different hearings on this.
Other questions? Discussion by council or a motion from council?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2018-051, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of approving Resolution 2018-051, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, Katie. But you're not done. Next is Resolution 2018-052, adopting the fiscal year 2018-19 budget for the city of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action necessary to carry out the adopted budget.
So we have another public hearing. Again, we'll go fairly quickly through this one. For the public watching, I have given you the budget calendar. We are now at the bottom of the budget calendar. Can I hear a big yes? Okay, anyway, so here we are at the end. We're adopting the budget and getting ready to move into the next budget year. Where do revenues come from? You can find these graphs in the budget document. The full adopted budget will be available here within just a few weeks. And you can see that at City Hall. There'll be a copy in the library. It'll be on our website. You can see that a huge portion come from utilities, but I want to remind everyone that that is reserved for the utilities only. That cannot be used for any general fund activities. And then after that is property taxes, and property taxes are the ones that can be used for debt service and for public safety and administration. This is just another way to look at revenues, looking at them as a percent of the total. Then we have expenses. Where does the money go? You can see that the largest portion goes to personnel. And you do see that in the current year budget, there is a slight increase in the personnel, even though we did have some layoffs this year. And that is due to the implementation of the compensation study that the mayor was referencing just earlier in the meeting. Materials and services have gone down. with capital outlay going up, that reflects more the CIP, and that is normal for that to ebb and flow year after year, just depending on the timing of projects. And then this, again, is just another representation. For some people, it's easier to see where the expenses go as a % of the total. And I just wanted to point out the key personnel changes, since that is a huge part of what we do in our daily activities here. We've eliminated 3.25 FTE. 3 of the FTEs are from the administration department. The assistant city manager, the business analyst, and finance tech 1 were all eliminated. And then in planning was reduced by 0.25 FTE to make up the remainder. And we've also replaced an accountant position with a lower level finance tech 2. And then we've added a full-time code compliance and an increase of 0.5 FTE, and added a full-time evidence tech / community services officer. We're still working on the job description for that position. It's an increase of 0.5 FTE as well, and that will be in public safety and police. So this slide is just the full approved budget by fund. This shows the resources by fund, and then the requirements by fund, which have to match the resources. Any public comment?
Sorry, I apologize. Thank you, Katie. Citizen comment opportunity on public comment on the proposed budget. Anyone? Going once, going twice. Public hearing on resolution 2018-052 is closed. Council questions, comments, motion.
Before there's a motion, I have a technicality thing that I need you guys to amend that I didn't have time to give you. Can you pass that up? It's strictly that we reference adopting Exhibit A in here, and you don't adopt Exhibit A, you adopt the resolution. And so Josh added that warning, and I talked to him that wording, and I talked to him today and explained what we're adopting. And so it needs to be taken back out before you pass the resolution.
All right, so.
Exhibit A? Exhibit A is the whole big budget. Okay. And what you're adopting is the legal appropriations that are in the resolution in Section 2. You're not actually adopting Exhibit A because Exhibit A doesn't have the numbers for the adopted budget in it.
It's not written in the subject line anyway. It's not referenced.
Not referenced. It's written in the body of the
Section 1.
In the body of Section 1. Adoption, in Section 1, it says, and attached here too as Exhibit A.
Oh, I see that.
And
Yes.
so Josh said that we had to have a motion to amend the resolution before we could.
Ours says Exhibit 1, though.
No, that's
No, in
not
the
the
back.
resolution, that's just the
Page
staff
260.
report.
Oh, thanks.
It's back here. It's on the
I apologize for the
okay.
confusion.
So
Oh, I
Councilor
see.
Kuiper, would you like to make a motion to amend the resolution language?
Yeah, I make a motion to amend the resolution language of 2018-052 to remove the reference to Exhibit A and to remove Exhibit A from the resolution.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The resolution is now amended.
Okay.
Is there a motion on the amended resolution?
Yes, I move to approve or adopt the amended resolution 2018-052, adopting the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget of the City of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action necessary to carry out the adopted budget.
Okay.
Awesome. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the amended resolution 2018-052, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, Katie. Next, in our last public hearing, for a first reading, ordinance 2018-005, amending Title IV of the Municipal Code relating to city telecommunications utility and repealing sections 4.04040 through 4.04.090 relating to the Telecommunications Advisory Board.
I apologize.
Welcome, Brad.
The ordinance, good evening, Council. The ordinance you have before you is largely just to clean up some code related to Sherwood broadband and an advisory board that we had established back in the early years of Sherwood broadband. As I mentioned in my staff report, the Telecommunications Advisory Board only met 6 times, really those first few months in 2005. At this time, staff feels that that board is not necessary. Any kind of policy and direction can be done directly with council at this time. As Sherwood broadband grows and we start serving more of a populace, that there is some value in probably bringing that board back in some form or fashion. But the way the utility currently operates, we feel like it can be done directly with council. So with that, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Brad. So I am new to this 2-step process with ordinances of reading, first reading and second reading. So in the first reading, we still take public comment?
You still have a public hearing. You take comment. You do not vote. There's no need to vote. You basically...
And after we open and close the public hearing for the first reading, is there staff or council questions of staff and council discussion?
Correct.
Excellent.
And you could always make adjustments, my understanding, between the first and second reading. If you wanted some changes in the proposed ordinance, we can make those changes and bring them back for a second reading. That has not happened very often, but that's part of the process.
Awesome. Brad, don't move. But first, let's ask, does anyone here in the audience, we officially do have an audience for those at home, but of the 4, anyone like to give public comment on the proposed ordinance? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is closed on the first reading. Questions of staff? Discussion from council? All right, we will...
You'll see this a week from tonight at your June 19th meeting as a second reading and hopefully action that night by the council.
Thank you, Brad. City manager report.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, just a reminder, we do have the URA meeting after this because you have to approve the URA budget tonight.
Yeah.
I wanted to, tomorrow is Maggie Chapin, our Arts Center Director's last day. We are inviting anyone who hasn't had a chance to visit with Maggie and say goodbye. From 1 to 3 tomorrow at the Arts Center will be another window of time. You can come anytime during the day, but that's a 2-hour window where folks, especially staff, who haven't had a chance to say goodbye to Maggie before she moves on. I wanted to let folks know about that. Council actually got an email from Maggie late this afternoon about her replacement, who we will introduce to the public soon at the council meeting. We're very excited. We're sad to see Maggie go, but I think we found someone to build on the foundation that she built over at the Arts Center, and we're pretty excited about Shonda Hall is her name, I believe. So you'll get to meet her soon. She won't start until, I think, July 11th is her start date. I'm going on vacation this week. I'm going to actually try to go on vacation tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. I have some things that I need to get done, so I'll probably be in the office a couple hours each day. You have another meeting next Tuesday and a packet to get out, so. But I will not be here most of the day, and a number of my normal meetings with council got postponed, so I just want to let you know about that. And next week you have 2 meetings. You have a special meeting the mayor alluded to earlier in our meeting. You have the continuation of your goal setting that you had back in April that really kind of got hijacked by the UGB expansion question and the budget process. So I met with Dan Jameson today. We had a good meeting. We're all set for next Monday night to kind of wrap that process up.
Starting at the great hour of?
6 o'clock in this room. He wants a bigger room, not this little room here, so we'll be...
It's a big room.
It's a big room. So 6 to 9, we'll have dinner at 5:30. But we're looking forward to that, so that's next Monday night. And then on Tuesday is your normal second meeting of the month in this room on the 19th. We did some swapping, as you know. The Planning Commission had your normal night last Tuesday night to hear the high school land use application, and then you had your meeting here tonight. So things are a little bit out of order compared to normal. And then your first meeting in July, just for the public, normally we don't have a council meeting around the first time of the month because of the July 4th holiday and travels and things like that. So at this point, your second meeting in July, which will be, I think, the 17th, is your next meeting. So you'll go about a month in between meetings, unless something comes up. That's all I had for tonight, unless you had questions for me at all. Thank you.
Got off easy. They'll hold them all till next week.
There you go.
Moving on to council announcements. Council President.
All right. At the request of Councilor King, or Councilor Young, I'll keep this brief. It's been mentioned a couple times, that I'm the liaison to the Planning Commission. We did meet last Tuesday, and while it was a long meeting, they did go to 11 p.m. So bravo to the Planning Commission, to staff and everybody who stuck that meeting out. But ultimately, it was a great success in that they did kind of clear the final hurdle on the high school plans. So that was great to see them get past that today. And then I'll let somebody else talk about what happened today. I don't want to steal that one. And then so that was on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday up at the Portland Metro building was the Regional Water Providers Consortium Board on our quarterly meeting there. I've mentioned it before. Go check out their website. They do a lot of great work, ranging from just figuring out ways to conserve water in your home through things such as simple as leaky faucets or irrigation issues with your sprinklers, all the way to emergency water conservation in the event of a massive earthquake. They have information on there on how to prepare for those. So it's a great resource for everybody. And of note, with the Regional Water Provider Consortium Board, we added 2 new cities since the last meeting. So Troutdale and Cornelius has joined the consortium. So more power in numbers there for that board. So I'm doing good, and I'll leave it at that.
Great. Councilor Young?
It was a busy month without even attending any of my liaison assignments because it was budget season, so I missed them all. But I'll just highlight a couple things. The groundbreaking day at the high school was great, but I'll leave that to Mayor because he was really representing us up there. I attended and I always pronounce the name wrong, the general contractor for the high school, Skanska open house. And I was just impressed that they had basically an ice cream social and invited the public so that they could address traffic concerns and explain to them where their construction routes were going to be and just kind of give an update on what that was going to look like for the citizens that lived around that. So I was impressed with that. I attended a YMCA active older adult breakfast, which was held to introduce their active older adults to the new executive director, Ryan, who is just doing a great job. And I was just impressed with the number of active older adults that they have and how involved they are in the YMCA. And I will just say also thank you to Adrian for your report in our staff report, and I appreciate that. It looks like the library is doing great things. Thanks.
We're up 2.5%. I read it.
I read it. I
read
did
it.
too.
Russell?
I just have 2 things. Last Monday, the Parks Board met and we had an interesting discussion about, Kristen talked about the upcoming Parks Board master plan and kind of getting mentally prepared for that. And we kind of did a hit list of, Carrie Brennick came and we talked about visioning, the comprehensive plan for the city and visioning and what does the Parks Board want to see, the kinds of things. We made a full list. I was Scrivener, what is that?
Scribe.
I was the writing guy who wrote the stuff on the sheet. Yeah, and we captured all kinds of really, really interesting comments by the Parks Board. And something that Kristen Schweitzer brought up was, I think we've been doing an excellent job in providing parks and that sort of facility to the city. But one of the things that Sherwood doesn't really have, at least not the ability to do so, is like Newburgh, for example, they have a recreation district. and that they provide recreation opportunities, which it's not just going to a park and playing on the park structure. So this was just a brief discussion that we had on Monday night, and Kristen was just sort of, you have a sour face on it. I'm just not saying we should do anything. I'm just saying the Parks Board is thinking. They're just thinking about the master plan and what's in their future. I'll leave it at that. And then, of course, the Sherwood Robin Hood Festival Association.
And fund a bunch of other things.
65th. And it's really Wild Wild West at those Parks Board meetings. You should come. It's tons of fun. Isn't that right, Kristen? Tons of fun. We talk about all kinds of things. So, all right, the Robin Hood Festival, 65th year, 65 years. Wow. Oh my gosh. So that'll be July 2021, and the archery contest is on 21 and 22. If you go to the website, everything you need to know is on the website. You can get parade applications still, and yet they will still take them the morning of if you just can't get it together until that morning. We really want to see that float when that comes down. And vendor applications, all that's still available on the website. So just contact the website. So that's it. Oh yeah, I forgot. Hello Dolly. You want me to talk about it? Oh yeah, because you're done. You're done. So Hello Dolly is taking shape. We've completed successfully Act 1 and Act 2 without too much of a train wreck. It's always this way, by the way. Don't panic, public. It's always this way, and then it just comes together. The orchestra and Stella Olson Park, and out in the check the website, the Sherwood Foundation for the Arts website to get tickets. Are on sale right now.
Early bird still.
Early bird still available. If you get in early, you can get.
It's like $5 off.
Is that $5?
Until
Yes,
June
the discount.
15th.
Yeah,
I
through
believe
the 15th.
is the date. So.
And it's tons of fun. So Hello Dolly with all the costumes and all that great music.
10th anniversary.
We have the most operatic tenor, or excuse me, sir, bass, who's going to be singing the part of Rudy. Yes, don't give it away. Don't give it away. And he's going to be singing Hello Dolly about 2 octaves below this voice. And it is amazing. Yeah, the buildings will shake when he sings that song. So you have to come and see that. Just that. It's really great.
Great. Councilor Kuiper?
That was
cut him off if he had something else or not.
Councilor Griffin.
Because of Councilor
Hello,
Young's
Griffin.
request.
Hello, Griffin. All right. I know, don't get me started. Quick announcements.
Too late.
Congratulations to our seniors, our high school seniors. It was a very rainy graduation. It was rainy, and we were drenched, but it was a lot of fun. So congratulations to our graduating seniors. Congratulations to the Sherwood School District, but we will let our mayor talk about that. And one other announcement, the Cultural Arts Commission meeting that was scheduled for this Monday will not be happening due to Maggie will be leaving, and our new Shanda Hall won't be arriving until July 11th, which in fact will be our next Cultural Arts Commission meeting, July 11th. But in the meantime, Bill Flood, who we have retained to work on our public arts master plan, is doing a tremendous job. He's been interviewing a lot of the stakeholders, individual artists, performing arts, visual artists, and I think the Cultural Arts Commission is really moving forward with a really terrific public arts master plan, so I'm really excited about that. That's all. Yeah.
Councilor Browse?
All right. So Councilor Young mentioned this wonderful report that we received in our packet. We have the greatest library manager, I think, that exists. She puts together this awesome report, and I think this one statistic that jumped out at me is that total checkouts this quarter are valued at nearly $2 million. I think that's just fabulous. She gave me a couple of updates to share with all of you. Summer reading started June 1st and will go to August 31st. I believe there's still opportunity to sign up. Everybody who signs up gets a free book at registration. There's 2 groups. There's a kids 0 through 17, and then there's an adult group. So there are 650 kids signed up, so that's 94%, which is pretty spectacular. And there are 250 adults signed up. That's great. Awesome. So there'll be a lot of reading going on this summer, which I'm glad to hear. Chamber of Commerce dinner, awards dinner is June 28th. There's still time to sign up for that event, and it's a way to really share in the great things that Chamber have done through the community, and there are nominees that will be awarded Citizen of the Year, Business Leader of the Year, and so on and so forth. So a nice opportunity just to celebrate the end of a fiscal year. The Senior Center, we won't be meeting until later on this month, but to add to what Councilor Young said, there was another event that took place at the Y that was the Senior Fair, and Kristen and I went together, and you talk about the use of that sport court was filled with different vendors, all relating to seniors. And so the seniors were out in force that day as well. So lots of good things going on there. I did want to announce that we have this great gym in our community called Helping Hands, and I learned that they built a new shed for their food storage. So instead of having to go back and forth to Newburgh for their food, they are able to store it now here in Sherwood. So that program can grow and thrive. And I think I'll just leave it at that for tonight.
Councilor Rosemary?
I'll keep it quick. I haven't had any liaison assignments since the last meeting. I did attend and volunteered at the Sherwood Cruising Festival over the weekend, which even with the, I think we had 2 torrential downpours, it was still in a 3.
Brief. They were brief, 30 seconds tops.
I must have been inside during one, but overall it was awesome.
I got the sunburn from it.
Yeah, I can testify. I was outside the entire time.
As long as there was a tree to hide under during the rainstorms, but it was awesome. We had great turnout, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, Hit Machine played that night, which is always a big draw for the community. And I was down there with my wife having fun, so it was a great event. And I won't steal Keith's thunder on the high school, but attended a great event out in the field today that I'll let Keith
The expectations
talk
are
about.
good. Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, kudos to everybody that attended and volunteered at Cruising Sherwood this past weekend. About everybody on council I saw. Renee did a wonderful job running the beer garden. Councilor Rosner, sight to behold, garbage collector. Really.
I just want to point out, I was trash guy number 2. There was a trash guy number 1.
At my house, I was in charge of curly fries. That was my contribution to this year's cruise, and was curly fries. I ate a ton of stuff down there.
Outstanding.
I was hiding in the chamber office in the cash room.
I was under
6
the
a.m.
metal awning in the apparel booth, worrying about lightning. So, yeah.
Counselor Garland, I do remember driving by you and sitting under that awning. I was in a torrential downpour.
We did stay dry under there, so that was a good spot to be.
Wise move. So I think everyone that went had a good time. Yes, there was a little bit of a drizzle at one point, maybe. But there was a great turnout and another great event in our community annually, just like coming up with the Robin Festival. I'm sure I'll hear more about it, but Metro did pass a housing bond measure to put on the November ballot. The tax rate they're asking for support for is $24 a thousand to raise over $200 million, and it'll be on the November of 18 ballot. More news that I'm sure that they will share with everyone, including us. Very good. Thank you, Joe. The excitement for today that we were able to attend was to celebrate our wonderful new high school groundbreaking. Heather Cordy and the school board did a fantastic job, along with Skanska, the contractor, in clearing the space, getting some shovel-ready dirt for Joe to demonstrate his shoveling skills, along with a bunch of students, school board members, and I instructed from a row behind, just so that the kids could experience it all. It was really neat. The wonderful music. I mean, showed the talent, band members and singers, and the three outstanding Sherwood High students talking about the importance of this project for them and their classmates today and in the future. it was just great. And the weather was nice, a little too nice for towhead ginger kid like me. So I got a little bit too much sun, but it was well worth it. Kind of interesting, and one of the observations I made was we don't do this every day in our community or in any community of building a new school. We certainly did it. We did a grade school, middle school, the Ridge schools 10 years ago. That was a big deal. About 15 years ago, we did Middleton grade school, and I was around then. I was also around when we did the Archer Glen about 22 plus years ago. And then we did, before that, it was the current Sherwood High on Meineke. Groundbreaking, roughly 1968. Opened in 1970, so the timing is sort of coincidence. It'll be a 50-year use as Sherwood High when all things happen as planned, and the students walk in the door for fall of 2020. The other little nugget that I wanted to just point out, and I'll say it here too, back in the 60s, Sherwood was a tiny town. The school district actually had more population outside of the city than in, and they were experiencing some very similar issues. Overcrowding in the two schools that we had, it was so bad that they made a deal with students that lived east district near Tualatin to go. Some of them could go to Tualatin schools for a few years until the new high school was built. The community rallied, built a new high school way out on the outskirts of town, barely with a corner of a neighborhood sort of attached to it, in 1970, with nothing but farms and trees all around it. And then over the course of the next 20 years, the city grew and grew and finally started going around it. And it became, just a short drive from Old Town, with neighborhoods all around it. And move forward 50 years, it's sort of a similar deal. Kids are, sitting in the hallways for class virtually, certainly eating in the hallways and outside during lunch. And the community rallied and did what we all knew was possible, but was a Herculean effort from a commitment from the community standpoint to pass that bond. And we're building a brand new big school way out on the edge of town, barely sort of touching by one neighborhood on one corner, surrounded by fields and farms and trees. And over the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years, we'll grow all around it and in a manner that we all want to see, and in a manner in partnership with our partners, the school district, and our businesses and families. So it was awesome. Thanks for everyone for being there, and it meant a lot to Heather Cordy and the school board, and all the students to demonstrate our shared commitment to our community. Anything else that we have forgotten?
That's great.
Acting Chief? Joe? 4th of July Neighborhood Parade in Woodhaven is around the corner. And then right after that will be Music on the Green and lots and lots of community events, so don't be shy about looking at the calendar. There are too many things to mention that happens in the library and programs in our art center. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, the city newsletter went to the printer today.
Microphone.
Mailboxes.
Within the week, and lots of activities and events in there.
Yep.
And it doesn't cover everything.
Yep.
But
I think I tried to cover some of them
you
in my
covered some,
counselor
the
column,
mayor,
and I
the
know
mayor
I
covered
missed some of them.
his
Yep.
in his column, and
Yep.
then there's a lot of good information in there. So.
Awesome. With that, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. And we had a moment of time travel today.
I know. We totally did. We totally did.
Little known for the audience, we walked in here and it was 3 o'clock per our clock in the wall. And I'm going, what time really is it? And then magically, it moved.
It's the right time.
It's now the right time.
For a minute or two.
And remember, after your break, we have a short URA meeting.
Yes. So we're going to adjourn the city council meeting and then move on to the urban renewal board. So we're going to now adjourn city council.